All right, we got Violet in the Pie of Life. Oh, we're in the 20s now, I think. Yep, chapter 20. Trip's making fussy noises up on the bed, but we'll see what happens. When my phone finally rang that day, it was after school and I was rehearsing on stage. I was barely listening. I was rehearsing on stage. I was barely listening to Allie's beautiful singing, even though Mr. Goldstein always said listening techniques separated the pro actors from the amateurs. He also said to silence your cell phones at rehearsals. I hadn't listened to that either, and I was definitely an amateur. I grabbed my phone from my back pocket, looked at the caller ID, and let a long breath of worried air I'd been storing since last night. Then I hurried downstage and jumped off. "Dad," I said as soon as I landed. "Violet," Mr. Goldstein said testily in front of me. "Violet," Dad said testily in my ear. I walked away from Mr. Goldstein, who repeated my name more testily. "Her grandmother's dying in the hospital," Kimmy said. "Great-grandmother," Diego said. "You two have poor listening techniques," Sarah said. "It's Violet's great-aunt." I hurried to the side exit. "Violet," Allie called out. She was the first person to say my name without sounding testy. She sounded concerned. I walked out of the auditorium and closed the door behind me. I didn't know how this phone call would go, but at least I knew I could talk to my father. Mackenzie could never talk to hers again. I shouldn't have been so mean to her. "What's going on, Vi?" Dad asked. His voice was softer now, and I'd wondered if he had missed me as much as I missed him, or at least as much, because it would be hard to match how much I missed him. He said, "You and your mother left so many messages. You filled up my voicemail." "Mom called you?" Each word came out like a panicky gasp. "Violet, what's wrong?" Dad's voice seemed testy again. Mom used to say he had no patience. Dad used to say he just didn't suffer fools. I didn't want to be a fool who made him suffer, so I said, "Everything's wrong, but I don't need a therapist." "What?" I said, "I don't need a therapist." I kept walking away from the auditorium. "Hey, Zemo." "Okay, it would be hard to come up with money for that anyway," Dad said. It should have made me relieved that I'd won the fight, but it hadn't been a fight. I wish he put up some kind of fight, or at least a small protest to show he cared. I hadn't filled up his voicemail and checked my phone a quadrillion times and walked out of the rehearsal for nothing. So I said, "I don't understand. Why can't you see me?" He didn't respond. It was like today's mostly silent lunch with Mackenzie. If I'd been sitting across from Dad, I might have kicked his shin, like Mackenzie, or possibly tried to hug him. But I wasn't sitting across from him. I was miles away from him. Maybe 50 miles, maybe 1,000. I didn't even know. I wasn't sitting either. I was standing by myself on gray asphalt between the side of the auditorium and a dumpster. It was cold outside, near record low for Orange County this time of year. The TV weather lady had gushed excitedly and my jacket was inside. I couldn't play the silent game with Dad like I had with Mackenzie. It was a terrible game. Plus, I didn't know how long I could keep Dad on the phone. What if he hung up on me? So I said, "When are you coming back anyway?" "Violet, I'm not moving back with you and your mother." He used that firm, weary, pitying tone my mother used. It sounded even worse from him because he'd hardly ever been firm, weary, or pitying with me before. "I wasn't asking you to move back in with us," I said, though I did want him to move back, so that he and Mom could solve their problems and we could stay a family. I meant, when are you coming back to town?" "What?" "Where are you? You said in your email you'd be out of town, so you can't see my play, which is coming up very soon." "What email, Violet?" Why did he have to make everything so hard? You wrote me those emails, I said. You told me I needed a therapist. You're the one who needs a therapist if you can't even remember what you wrote your daughter about or what city or state you live in. I don't understand, Dad said, sounding impatient. I used to think he was the only one who understood me, but now he didn't even understand my simple questions about emails or where he was. Have you been drinking? I asked, sounding horribly like my mom. No, Violet. He had that same annoyed tone he used with my mom. He had never sounded like that with me before, though I had never asked him if he'd been drinking. Violet, listen to me. I didn't send you any emails. I'm not going out of town. I stood with the phone clenched in my hand, trying to make sense of things. Hey, Zemo. Make sense of things. I crossed my arm over my chest to keep out the cold, but it was impossible. Dad hated silence as much as Mackenzie did, so he said, Vi, I'm going to be straight with you. You weren't straight with me before. He ignored that and plunged in. I'm taking a break from responsibility. You only have one life, right? I was spending most of my life working or looking for work or pretending to look for work to fend off your mother and running errands or fixing things around the house or doing yard work. Your mother loves the domestic stuff, the routine. She insists on the three of us eating dinner at the table every night like one of those old-fashioned families. But that's never been my style. You didn't like eating dinner together? I said softly. I did, Vi, but not with all those rules. The same time every night, no cell phones at the table, no TV, and the arguing was too much. I need to simply be me for a while, without so many responsibilities, without being a husband or father, but you are a father. You're my father. He didn't respond. I stood with the hard, silent phone against my ear. This was the worst dad situation ever. It was number quadrillion on the list. I wish this were only a scene from a play, a tragic one, where I was a fictional character shivering in the cold at the dreary school on a gray day near a smelly dumpster. It would be the dumbest play in the world. No one would ever see it. No one would want my pitiful part. I didn't want to play that part, to be that character. Not anymore. I cleared my throat and pretended to be the lion, the not actually cowardly lion, charging at the witch of the West. How dare you send me emails telling me you... Dad interrupted me. Whatever the emails were telling you, they didn't come from me. I'd been about to say, telling me you loved me. He added, I don't know what kind of jerk would send you fake emails in my name, but it wasn't me. I closed my eyes so I could think. The dumpster stench filled my nose, and Dad's words burned in my ears. But I figured it out. I realized what kind of jerk would send me emails in Dad's name. A lying, interfering jerk. Listen, Vi, Dad said unnecessarily because I'd been listening. I'd been listening so hard. I'd been hanging on his every word. Not only now, but all my life. He said, your mother wanted me to see a therapist. Of course she did. Actually, she wanted both of us to go. Marital counseling, it's called, but that's not my style. I don't like strangers trying to figure me out or tell me what to do. Tell me what to do, Dad said, like that was something to be proud of. But that's just me. I've always been a free spirit. What I'm getting at, Violet, is maybe you should see a therapist. You sounded really upset on the phone last night. I kept my eyes closed and wished he wasn't my dad. I wished we were only an actor playing a dad, a horribly selfish dad. I wish my real dad was like Allie's nice, annoying dad, or even Mackenzie's saintly dead one. And I wished so hard that I was only an actor playing the part of Violet, pathetic Violet. shaking outside in the cold. Tom had taken her jacket, wanting something she couldn't have, someone who didn't really exist. The therapist will probably say I'm a bad father and blame all your problems on me, the dad character said. But I think our time apart will be positive, not just for me, but for you and your mother, too. The actor playing Violet opened her eyes and barked out a laugh. No, actually, I barked out a laugh, as if this were really a scene from a play. It would be a comedy. No one would take my dad's dialogue seriously. As he rambled on about his need for solitude and search for meaning, I moved close to the dumpster to give his words the stinky setting they deserved. Violet, Allie called out. She and Diego stood outside the auditorium door. Allie was holding my jacket. Yes, Mr. Trips? You want to come sit on my lap? All right, let's get you on my lap. Come here. All right. Up. There's Mr. Trips. Stay comfortable. You'll fall down again. All right. They started walking toward me, looking around. I clicked off my phone as if it were nothing, ran behind the dumpster and crouched there like a movie hero, setting up a surprise attack on a bad guy. But the only bad guy was my dad, and I'd hung up on him. The dumpster smelled awful. I plugged my nose and stayed still. Luckily, Allie and Diego hadn't seen me. I just had to wait until they gave up looking for me. She ran somewhere behind this dumpster, Diego said. He must have walked closer because he wasn't shouting, and I could hear him fine. Great move, Violet. Nothing like waiting in soggy trash behind a stinky dumpster so you can be seen by the boy you've had a crush on for the last 14 months. I'll talk to her, Allie said. She was right near the dumpster, too. Go back to rehearsal, Diego. Tell Mr. Goldstein we're sorry for leaving, okay? I can stay, Diego said, because he's a guy, and guys always want to stay with the beautiful girls like Allie, even if it means suffering with a pathetic girl in the soggy trash behind a stinky dumpster. I got this, Allie said. Mr. Goldstein will want you back in rehearsal. You're the star of the play, Diego said. I'm also Violet's good friend. That would have made me happy if I weren't so sad. I like Violet too, Diego said. He liked me or just liked me. Either way, that would have made me happy too. Let me talk to her alone, Allie said. I heard footsteps walking away from me, and then I heard other footsteps coming towards me. Violet, can we talk somewhere away from the dumpster? Allie asked. I didn't say anything. The footsteps came close, right to the edge of the trash. Allie was a really good friend. I walked to her, stopping halfway to shake off the slimy wet cardboard and the weird plastic stuff from the bottom of my shoes. Allie threw my back jacket around my shoulders and gave me a hug. Then I did something almost as embarrassing as hiding behind a dumpster. I burst into tears, not pretty soft ones like Allie's that night at her house. More like loud, snotty, croaky, ugly crying. Also, I was shaking from the cold and or the phone call and or total humiliation. It felt like I cried and shook for an hour, but it was probably only a few minutes. Then I stopped shaking and cried more normally for like a minute, and then I stopped crying, but felt really sad. Allie kept hugging me the whole time. After I stepped back, Allie said, I'm sorry about your great aunt. I laughed. She's dead. Allie took a step back. Not my great aunt. I mean, she is dead, but she died before I was born. Allie frowned. It's really my dad, explained. Your dad died? Allie asked, scrunching her eyebrows. I wish, I thought for half a second, or maybe 2 or 3 seconds. I'm so sorry, Allie said. I shook my head. My dad's alive. He's fine, I guess. He just called to tell me to stop trying to talk to him. He told me he didn't want any responsibilities, and me and my mom being the responsibilities. Oh, Violet, Allie said, as though this was even worse than if my dad had died. It wasn't, not according to my dad's situations from bad to worse list, but it felt like the worst thing ever. Hey, Diego shouted. He hurried towards us, panting as he ran. He was one of those people who may look like they're in good shape because they're thin, but really aren't. I was one of those people, too. We had so much in common. Shh, Trip. Yes, it is your lap. We had so much in common. Yes, it's your lap. That's okay. He's going away. Chill, Trippy, chill. Because they're thin, but really aren't. I was one of those people, too. We had so much in common. We also both had straight brown hair. Diego reached us quickly. He was breathing hard, and his face was red and shiny, but he was still perfect. He panted. Goldstein wants you inside. I nodded, but Allie said, we need a few minutes. Mr. Goldstein said ASAP. Diego was breathing better now. Allie and I didn't move. As soon as possible, Diego said, like we didn't know what ASAP meant. It'll be possible later, not now, Allie said. Give us a few minutes. Diego didn't move except to cross his arms. Thanks, Diego. Bye, Allie said. Well, hurry up. He slowly walked away, glancing back every so often. Thanks for staying out here with me, Allie, I said. You won't tell anyone about my dad, will you? Allie shook her head. It's so embarrassing, I muttered to the ground. Allie cleared her throat as she was going to talk, but she didn't. There was only silence. Then she cleared her throat again and said very quietly, I don't even know who my dad is. What? I looked at her, but she was looking away. I said, your dad is nice. I met him at your house, remember? And then pretty popular, perfect Allie told me a bunch of stuff. So this is the stuff that Allie told me. 1, the people I'd met at her house were her grandparents. 2, she lived with them since she was 4 and on and off before that. 3, her mom claimed she didn't know whose Allie's dad was, but Allie wasn't sure whether to believe her. Allie's mom had told her a lot of lies, like she was going to take Allie out for her birthday last year. She had given up drugs for good. She wanted Allie to be her daughter to live with her. And her other daughter, she wanted Allie and her other daughters to live with her. But according to Allie, she wanted drugs more. Allie was going to track down her dad one day just to get child support and pay back her grandparents. I wonder if there was other reasons too. I didn't wonder that out loud. Allie found out she was 40% Mexican because of an online DNA test her grandparents let her do. The little girls I met were really Allie's half-sisters. They knew who their dad was, but he was in jail, which was probably worse than not knowing who your dad was. The last time Allie saw her mom, she was strung out, and her grandparents had to call the police. She's hitting all the rough stuff. 9, sometimes she still thought her mom would get clean and take care of her, and they'd live happily ever after. And 10, but mostly she didn't think that anymore. Allie was matter of fact when she said it, all of it. But I was matter of fact when I wasn't matter of fact when I heard it. And I said, oh, Allie, at least 3 times. I couldn't think of much else to say. Allie's dad being a mystery was even worse than my dad being taking his stupid responsibility break. I wasn't sure where you don't know who your dad is, or Allie's half-sisters, your dad's in jail, fell on my list of dad situations from bad to worse, but they were awful. Allie gave a little shrug and said, so let's neither of us be embarrassed about our fathers. I couldn't help saying, oh, Allie, one more time. Then Diego came out again and shouted, we really need you guys in rehearsal. Are you ready? Allie asked me. I nodded. Are you ready? And Allie nodded. She took my hand, which probably would have felt weird any other time. We walked over to Diego and back to the auditorium. When we got inside, Mr. Goldstein said, Violet, I'm sorry about your... He trailed off. Great aunt, Allie said. Dad, I said at the same time. Mr. Goldstein's eyebrows shot up. She meant her dad calling during rehearsal, even though he should have known that Violet was doing and not disturb her, Allie said. Violet's dad is the one who should be sorry. Very sorry. He's rude. Yeah, I nodded gratefully at Allie. He's really rude. Violet, are you up to rehearsing with your theater family? Mr. Goldstein asked. I locked my arms with Allie and Diego. Let's follow the yellow brick road. Oh, since Trippy just settled down, I'll do 2 chapters. Well, that took a while. I'll stop just for a minute and start another video.